Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking about the foundation for everything, communication. And the sad part is so many people get it wrong, and we don't have to. And so please join me in welcoming Amanda Kenderes to our program today. Welcome, Amanda. How are you?
I am great. It's so good to be here. Thank you so much, Deb, for having me.
We're going to have so much fun. Well, let me tell people just a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this. So Amanda Kenderes is a professor of interdisciplinary studies at Humphreys University. She holds a Ph.D. in social science and comparative education from the Graduate School of Education and Information Studies at UCLA. She grew up in North and South America, Asia, Africa, and Europe. And that's all they sent me for your bio. You are one of the most accomplished people with one of the shortest bios I think I have ever seen. So tell us how it is that you got to where you are today.
Yes. So I think the best passions come from an attempt to answer a question or solve a problem for ourselves. And then we find out that answer also it can help other people. So that's my story. I grew up internationally, like you said. My dad worked for the U.S. Embassy. So and that had us moving to a new continent every 3 years. So I figured if I was going to have a good time anywhere, I would have to learn to connect quickly because I was soon going to be moving on again.
Right.
Well, how do we connect with people? Through talk.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, right. That's how we get it started. So most of us recognize intuitively that we start off conversation with more neutral, objective, kind of fact-based stuff like the weather, or weekends coming up. And then as we get to know each other more, or the conversation develops, we throw in some more subjective, relating type stuff like, did you get to enjoy this good weather, or any fun plans this weekend? And then maybe if we get to know each other even more, we might have some deeper stuff.
Okay.
Like, how do do you feel you really belong in this city? Or what are you hoping to do, your goals in life or your dreams? Okay. So I saw this kind of deepening of conversation happening, and I thought, well, gosh, if deep is the ultimate goal in any relationship, why do we even bother with the other ones?
Right. Why are we asking about the weather?
That's right. Let's just skip the small talk and dive right in. Okay, now you have to picture this. I'm in elementary school. I'm in Greece, and I'm asking my teachers questions like, if God is loving, why is there suffering? Or if they were, I dove right in. So if they were married, I'd say, how do you know you found the one? So yes.
How many times did you get to go to the principal's office?
See that? You get it right away. This did not go over very well.
No. Yeah, I was the child that was in my report card, will not shut up and sit down.
See, we all have our things. This was my thing. And so the fact that this didn't go over very well, it kind of it kind of stung a little bit. And so I just started to pretend. I learned to talk like everybody else. I did the chit chat. I did all that stuff. But secretly inside, I felt like something was wrong with me, that I wasn't normal.
Right.
So I had, so I spent the next maybe 10 years or so kind of just going that way. And inside, it was rough. But 10 years later, I had a breakthrough. And at this point, I realized that actually, you know what? Those different types of talk that I had recognized years earlier, they're not levels of talk and we all have a goal of getting deep. These are these are categories of communication.
Okay.
And when we rank them, and we all have different preferences. Some of us like to get deep and some don't. And when we rank them, we actually get 6 talk types. Now, what this did for me is bring incredible relief, because I realized that there was nothing wrong with me.
Right.
And that there's no one normal communicator. There are 6 normal communicators. And I was one of those 6, and you're one of those 6, and everyone listening is one of these 6. This was a life-changing realization for me. I wanted to share it, but I wasn't ready. I spent the next 25 years over 40 countries, just testing the model, figuring it out, defining it clearly.
And it was universal. That's what I find interesting about this. Okay.
Every single country that I went to, worked in, everybody in each of these countries around the world communicates in one of these 6 ways. And these 6 ways, these 6 talk types are formed from these 3 communication categories, these 3 fundamental reasons for talking. And that's it. Yeah, life-changing stuff. That's my story. And that's sort of the very fast version to get us where I am today.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's jump into this. What are the 6 talk types?
Yeah. So if I may, let's start with the 3 communication categories. So these are the building blocks. And I'll try not to get too technical. But basically we've got, so I called them A, B, and C. When I was younger, I didn't have any words to define them. I called them A, B, and C. And I still use those as shorthand, but I've got some nicknames as well. So for A is the, A, B, and C are the, we go from the progression from the seemingly lightest one to the deepest one, but they're not actually that way. We can talk more about that if we want. But A is informing.
Okay.
It's, all of these 3 reasons for talking, they are why we talk. That's what they're ultimately about. We all have different reasons that we want to talk. So A's want to share their objective understanding. Okay. And when they listen, they're listening for other people's objective understanding. They want to add to their own objective understanding and add to others. B's are relators. So they're, how was your weekend? Did you have fun? Here's a picture of my dog on my phone dressed in her Halloween costume. So cute. That's B. And B's aren't looking to be understood or have a profound, conclusion about life. They want to witness. They want to be heard. Okay. And C's are the meaning makers. They're the deep dive, meaning of life, conclusion, vulnerability. And the 6 talk types are just our ranked preferences for these. So we have 2 A dominants, A, B, A, C, 2 B dominants, B, A, B, C, and then 2 C dominants, C, A, and C, B. Okay. So, and if you go through the book, which I believe you mentioned, I'm not sure. Maybe we didn't.
We didn't. You are the author of a fabulous book called Talk Types, and we will have a link to it in the show notes.
Okay. So in the book Talk Types, I do give examples of public figures of each of these talk types. Okay. Just to help kind of wrap our minds around, what they are. So, and get sense of like an archetype. So, some people we all know, like Oprah Winfrey. She's a CB, so she leads with that deep, vulnerable. Okay. And then underneath is that like, oh girl, you got your nails done.
And wanting to be liked. And
yes. And we all want to be liked, but how we are liked and how that kind of lands on us and how we define that is different.
Right. Because some people, they're like Sally Field. You love me. You really, really love me. And then there are others like, meh, whatever. They don't want to be ignored or things like that. But it's and there's that scale.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because we all want on some level to be known, to know and be known. But if say you're an AC, you aren't gonna maybe be sharing those pictures of your dog on your phone, or you're not going to ask about your weekend, and somebody says, hey, how are you? And you might not know what to do. But how are you going to be known? Well, maybe that person is going to feel known when they, when you know how they think, when you understand what they understand. So it's just very different. So someone like, an example of AC would be Barack Obama.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very fact forward, but then there's that deep undertones, deep undertones.
Right. And he's not going to do the chit chat.
He's not. In fact, funny anecdote, when he was, prior to being elected, he was going through training. He actually had to be trained to do small talk.
Right. Because that was just not what he did.
No, that was not his thing. So he was essentially getting B training or relating training. Yeah.
I can just say, now you need to say, now, Putin, how was your day today?
That's right. That's right. Practice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are so different as people, but when you start to see that actually everyone can be not reduced, but distilled down to these sort of communicator types, we realize that we're not actually that different than, there aren't an infinite number of kinds of people. We are similar in a number of ways, and we all have overlaps with one another.
Right. But of course, knowing all of this is going to help us communicate. I'm a B. Hello. Can I be a BB? I mean, I'm just, but yeah, so I'm the chatty Cathy. I'm doing all of that stuff. And somebody who is trying to talk to me needs to understand. I'm going to go through some of this first. And if not, I'm just going to be going, right. But I also need to understand that if I'm talking to someone who is a strong A or a strong C, they don't want my chit chat. And so if I'm being chatty Cathy with them, I'm going to lose them pretty fast.
Yeah, that's right. No, and it's very intuitive of you to recognize that, for sure. And I think that's part of the power of it, is that once we see it, then we can kind of turn up the dial, turn down the dial, we can adjust, because other people may not know that. And so if we do, it sort of puts the power, we're in the power seat, and then we can make adjustments, and it ultimately leads to better results.
Right. Yeah. But it's like I said in the intro, the problem is we don't care. And I shouldn't say, there are some that don't care. I mean, there's definitely those that don't care. I'm me, and I'm going to be the way I'm going to be no matter what. But the issue comes when we do need to care, and we're not. So, especially if you're a leader, and I've talked to folks on the program who, we've talked about the fact that you need to find out how people want to be communicated with. Do they like phone? Do they like text messages? Do they like emails? All of those things. And then try to match as much as you can. But, all of this it's going to help us pull together better when we're understanding, okay, if I'm going to talk to this person, it needs to be in this way. If I'm going to talk to this person, I need to let them tell me what their plans for the weekend are, and things like that.
Yeah. And the thing is, so even all these modes of communication, the social media, the email, etc., even within those modes. So now we've narrowed it down. These are the modes that different people like. Okay, great. Now we can approach them from within that mode. Now we can talk to them in their talk type.
Right.
So, so we've reached a level of specificity that is even more useful, because the way we talk, it's the sort of the packaging. We can have the best content in the world, but if we can't deliver it in a way that they can receive, what good is it? And we talk about, which is huge, for marketing, absolutely. Sometimes we just, it seems like, well, we're marketing blind. Well, no, if we know kind of who our customer base is, then we can make those adjustments, and even a few micro adjustments can make a huge impact. But I'll say, to your point about the people who, seem to not care, like, hey, this is me.
I'm the boss.
I'm the boss. That's right. Well, here's the thing. Okay, you can be that way if you want, but if you are, we have to understand that if we're going to be that way, we have to deal with the consequences.
Right.
That's life. And so if we are that way, there are going to be certain kinds of conflict, and that type of conflict is predictable. Talk type model predicts the types of conflicts that we're going to have.
Right.
And so it's fine, but you're going to have to just accept that. And even if you don't accept it, it's still there. So
right. Yeah.
you can avoid conflict much better.
Right.
If you just...
Right. And I mean, obviously we're laughing that I'm chatty Cathy. I have worked for bosses that absolutely do not like that. Right.
Yeah.
And what has happened is I haven't worked for them long, and you don't even sometimes realize what's wrong. It's just, I don't like it here. And I mean, and you hate to admit it's because they didn't let me talk about my weekend plans. But it's so much more than that.
It really is, Deb. That's so insightful. And I love that you brought that up, because it's true. It's sort of, so this model sort of gives us answers as to what's happening here. You're right. When we know the talk type model, we get a sense of what's going on here, then we can make better choices about my career and, the job. And you find yourself in a place where I don't really like this here. I'm not happy here. Well, why not? It's more than just my boss doesn't want to hear about my weekend. You can't be yourself in that place. And we all need to be ourselves. I know that very personally. So yeah, no, we all need to be ourselves, and to be able to find that place, and we have a right to it. That's a human desire, and it's okay. It's okay.
Right.
So,
and we, like you said, we have to recognize ourselves. One of the things that I'm very conscious about is, if I'm in a meeting, not to be jibber jabber. And because it's just, I'm the first person to raise my hand. I'm the first person to do whatever. I've been like that since I was, itty bitty little kid, and I'm an only child. Maybe that's it. I'm just, but not only do I know, okay, well, my jibber jabber is not always appropriate. Sometimes my jibber jabber steps on somebody else. And, and that's what I always want to think about and be conscious about was, if they want my opinion, they'll ask for it. But, I need to give somebody else the opportunity to give their opinion. And I tell you, that's hard, because I'm like, no, I know the answer. Teacher, pick me. Right. And it is hard.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting here is we've got, different approaches. We define what the answer is differently.
Right.
And if you're doing B, your answer is going to be a B answer. We need to solve the problem this way. We need to take this approach. And somebody else say, those old bosses you used to have, they're not going to take that approach, and they're going to completely disagree with you. And I think when we unpack the why, what's going on in these three kinds of talk, we've got two understanding types, the A and the C. One is objective understanding, one is subjective understanding. Now, I know those are technical, but that's what's going on.
Read the book.
They both want to understand, but one is about, facts, and the other one's about more personal stuff. If I say I had a great childhood or I had a rough childhood, that's C. It's a subjective understanding. Nobody can say, well, Amanda, no, you didn't.
Well, your parents might, but
yeah. But if for A, objective understanding, that's like somebody looking into the microscope, and if I see these types of cells when I look, and you're a scientist and you look and you see that, you should see the same type of cells.
Right. Yeah.
It shouldn't matter who the person is. So that's with two different kinds of understanding. And B's are about relating. They're not looking to understand. They want to be heard. And here's the key. we get, because of these different motivations or reasons for talking, we get different values. We hear in so many communication, communication coaches and recommendations, we hear, don't interrupt. Okay, well, that's important. That's definitely important. But what's interesting is the people who care the most about not being interrupted are bees, because it goes fundamentally against their goal of being heard.
Right. You stopped me.
You stopped me. And that's a deeply personal kind of affront to that's who I am, and you stopped me. But an A and a C actually will welcome much of the time interruption, because they're trying to get at an understanding. And so they're like, well, stop me at any point you don't understand. Right. So much is there behind our motivations that really goes against the grain of conventional communication coaching and advice, and it can really help us much more when we unpack it.
So, of course, the challenge is when you're working with people who are all of these things. So, let's get into that. You're the team leader, and you have 10 people that work for you, and they're across every single one of those. How on earth do you, because you can't do, okay, this I'm going to talk to the A's, this I'm going to talk to the B's, this I'm going to talk to the C's. It doesn't work that way. So how do you blend the communication in to where you're, at least getting some message across some of the time?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's kind of where we need to land, is to maximize our message while minimizing, damage. And so I think this is the onus of this really falls on the leader to be able to recognize. If we can recognize these communication categories and the talk types, and then not only understand it intuitively, but see in our own employees, take the time and learn about our, who do I have on my team. And then once I do that, then if I'm giving a presentation, delivering some information, I can actually, turn up a little bit of B and A and C, and kind of get everybody on board. And it's not impossible. I mean, I've done that, gosh, for the last 30 years.
Yeah, because you've got students that are every which way.
Yeah, and people ask me, I teach this stuff now, and my students, after going through the model and they learn it, and then I'll say, all right, so they always want to know, well, what's your talk type, Amanda?
Yes.
And I'll have them guess, and it's always fun, because they never get, they rarely guess it. And this is a big compliment to me, because what it means is that I am able to bridge communication to across all the talk types in my classroom, such that they can't even recognize necessarily kind of my home base, because I built so much muscle in the other areas. And that's ultimately our goal, to be able to build that muscle with people, so that we're not coming across in a way that makes us uncomfortable or makes other people uncomfortable or confused. And we can absolutely get there, and we can enjoy it.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, on a practical level, that might mean, let's put some funny memes in for, some people who, and let's start with the small talk in the meeting. And then, we're going to hear from the bees. The bees are going to want to be heard. So let's give them some space.
Right. Let them be heard.
Let them be heard. And then once they feel included, and that they're heard, and they have a witness for what they want to say, now they're ready. They're ready to engage in these other, and they're much more open to that. And then with our A's, a lot of our businesses, we're giving A information. It's a lot of facts in the workplace. It just is. So that's going to happen. But what about the C's? Well, we can kind of wrap our messages in, what does this mean? Why are we doing this? These are the questions that if we can kind of add that on to the packaging of what we're doing, then we can get our C's on board as well.
So I'm guessing you're a BC.
Ha! I love it. Well, actually, I am a CA.
Okay.
So
See, and I know like you said, it's something totally unexpected.
It's totally unexpected. It's totally unexpected, and it makes me smile every time, because it just goes to show you kind of how far we've come, how far we can come, and if you consider my own background, I was not here even 10, 20 years ago. So we can absolutely all grow, and it's a testament to that.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm also assuming that in a group, it is actually better to have a mix of everything than to have all of one thing or the other. I mean, and obviously it depends, like if it's engineers, you might have, predominantly all one thing or something like that, but you kind of need all of it in order to be successful.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And you're right about, in an engineering firm, we're probably going to get a lot of A dominance. We're probably going to get a lot of ABs and ACs. Just kind of by, where people are attracted.
Right.
It's a better fit probably vocationally. Okay. But now we've built our project or our product. Now we need to market it. Well, we're probably going to want some Bs on board because they're really good with connecting with people quickly, with relating to others and making our product or service relatable. We're going to want that Bs in customer service. And we want to get so many books now. If you look back at Steve Jobs or even Simon Sinek's books, Start With Why, there's this push, especially these days, to kind of get at why and the big, deeper vision story of who we are. A lot of that's happening in the business world these days.
Right.
Everybody's got a story. And so, we want to get the C's for that. They're going to really help us craft a meaningful story for people to connect to. So without any one of those components, we are a little bit, off. We're unbalanced.
Right.
We absolutely need all of us.
And I think we see that when people are, giving a presentation or whatever, we're like, something's not quite here. Or, like you're giving a presentation and you look out and half your audience has totally perplexed looks and the other half are bored to tears. Well, you really screwed up on that one. Right. But, it is something where we need all of that, but it's really one of the things I was thinking about as we were, going through this is, B, we just know that. But like on Facebook, I am frequently, when I do a post, it has one word, just one. Yeah. I mean, it's, and part of it, I do this on purpose because I want to generate thought. And so I'm sharing an image or, something like that. And I will say truth. Yes. I mean, just one word. And it really does surprise people. They're like, that's it. And, but I also do that in communications with people, I'm like, yes. Okay. I mean, and it's it's like, I don't feel the need to go into other detail. Yes, this is approved.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course the B in me is going, right. But I also know, no, I can just say yes, no, whatever. And it works out just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, interestingly, so I'm imagining the B part of you. So B's, they want to be heard and they're giving their kind of subjective response or reaction to the things that they experience or learn throughout the day. But also they want to kind of hand the baton over to others.
Right. Yeah. And so it's that one word. What, I'm going to say yes, but I want to know what you think about it.
That's right. And then, and that way you're not biasing anyone. You're not, you're just kind of putting it out there and then you get to wait for the responses and the reactions and see what happens. And that's something that brings a B or a relator a lot of delight a lot of the time. It's just to kind of, just see what happens, and get those reactions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is interesting when we're doing all this, because it gets frustrating when it doesn't work, right? I was communicating with somebody today. They asked me a question, and this was all on, well, they called 3 times, and I thought, oh dear, right? Let it go into their voicemail. And then they messaged me, and I thought, okay, clearly something is going on. And the message was, call me right now. And my response was, I'm sorry, I can't. And so then I got this boobity 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 boobity, and and which that was fine, because that little 4-sentence thing that they did was going to be 5 minutes on the phone call. And so my response was, I understand. I'll see what I can do. And then I got another boobity 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 boobity, and I'm like, okay, and so then I didn't respond, and then I got, are you there? Okay, yes. But and so you're right. I mean, we go back and forth between all of these things, and and I really did want to say, yeah, I heard you the first time and I responded. I've moved on to the next thing. I've told you I'll work on it. I don't know what else you want me to say.
Yes. Well, this is so interesting, Deb, because this happens all the time. And I don't know the specifics, of course, of this example, but we can look at it as a general example. This happens where underneath we have our different whys.
Right.
And if you're receiving that person, so if you're a B dominant, the way that you talk and the way that you listen are to be heard.
Right.
And so here's this person, blah, 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 blah.
He gave me what I needed.
I hear you. I hear you. But let's just imagine that this other person is not a B dominant. If they're not a B dominant, then they are an A or C dominant. Their why is not to be heard, it's to be understood. So probably what was going on is they're going, Deb, you don't understand me. And so they kept trying. You don't understand me yet. You don't understand me yet. And you're going, no, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, I do.
Right.
Yeah. And of course it was frustrating. And I knew that if I was frustrated, he was frustrated. I mean, that was the other thing. But yeah, it was like, okay, got it, and time to move on. Obviously part of it, I mean, the subject he was very passionate about, right? Really, 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 really wanted to make sure I understood what was going on. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. And so maybe that's, but I didn't match his passion. And, oh my gosh, sky is falling. But I think that is part of this, is sometimes we do have to match that in order for them to feel heard and acknowledged.
Yeah, and a lot of times when we talk, we might circle in, or think out loud until we get to their kind of salient idea. And we might not be able to express it very well. And we might not even recognize ourselves exactly what we're trying, the nugget we want somebody to take away. And we're expecting the other to do the work for us. And they, they can't, because it's not their thing. And so that's where we can kind of be more introspective and go, okay, what am I really wanting to, to send here in this message? And probably it sounds like he needed to do that a little bit more.
Yeah. And I just let him vent. I mean, it was like, and I mean, that was the nice thing, was it was all written down. I wasn't on the phone going, right. And then realizing, oops, I missed something important that I just went to.
Well, it's funny because you were letting him be heard.
Yeah.
And it's true. We extend to others what we would like to receive ourselves. We want somebody to, if we're doing relating, we're doing B, we want someone to hear us. And here's the point. You're a B dominant, great, but you also have a secondary. You're either a BA or a BC. Everybody has understanding too.
Right.
It just may not be their primary. It might be their secondary. But everybody has some understanding. Some of us have our double duty understanders. Those are the ACs and CAs. They don't have relating in their genes. It's just not their thing. And so like Obama, they need to be coached into it. But And maybe that gentleman you were talking to was was that kind of person, just didn't have a B and didn't understand it and didn't want to be heard and was just growing more and more flustered.
Right.
It happens. But, knowing this and knowing this model can really help us to recognize when this is happening and to try and fix these things sooner. It really does help. Yeah. We don't take things as personally. Like, oh, they're doing B. Oh, they're doing A. Oh, it's C. They made a C joke. That's funny too. There's so much, we all, because as a kid too, I was wondering, like, why is it that, we laugh at different jokes? Why do we like different movies?
Right.
Books? It's because different jokes, there are A jokes and B jokes and C jokes. And different movies can be categorized by the talk types that they kind of predominantly, books, all of this. So if you're trying to pick out a movie with your partner, or you're trying to make an activity at work that, everybody's going to like, well, we want to consider, at work, it's a little bit harder because we have a lot more personalities to deal with, but at home we can negotiate better. We can negotiate a lot better when we know that sort of virtually everything communication related can be defined in these terms or understood in these terms.
I love it. And it is, the thing is making the effort, right? When I know someone is making an effort, as opposed to just ignoring me or the mother thing, you will do it because I told you to. And, sometimes that works and, but usually it's like, right. But then of course, the next time they say something, like you said, I had these bosses that did not understand that I wanted to chat, and they would, and it was also things like I wanted more information. I was the little kid that was continually going around going, why? Why? Now I didn't ask the deep questions like you did, but I was just naturally curious, and I often got because I said so.
Oh, that's not satisfying.
No, and or in work, because this is the way we've always done it.
Oh, no.
But why? Right.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Well, it sounds like, Deb, you might be a BA actually then. If you didn't really do what I call the deep stuff. Here's what's funny though, is that, so why is an understanding question. It's either a C question or an A question. And understanding can be light, more surface level light, and it can be deep. So, light A would be something like, when does the flight arrive? When's the schedule for the meeting? That's light A. Deep A would be something like, let's look into the origins of our existence.
Science,
that's deep A.
That is deep.
Physics. Okay. Same with C. Light C would be, thank you so much for throwing me this retirement party. I really am going to miss you all. You've become like family. Okay, that's light C. Deep C is, wow, I don't know who I am after this divorce. If I didn't even realize I'd lost myself, so how will I even know when I find myself again?
Right. And the poor person they're talking to is like, oh my God.
Oh yeah. If the other person doesn't have C, they're like, eek, where's my escape from?
They're looking around for the exit.
That's right. Hurry. Yeah. So that is it's so funny. So the why questions you were asking sounds like you're a BA kid and you were looking for some actual reasons and some facts to back up the stuff. But let's imagine you've got now, we think about, okay, your husband, if you have kids or family members, friends. All your family members and friends and coworkers, they're not BAs. Right. Everybody's different. So then, okay, what kind of conflicts are we going to get into? it's more than just, oh, there, you interrupted me, you're not letting me be heard. There are other things too. You were sounds like a BA kid. And so if you came home after school one day and your parents said, hey, how was your day? You'd probably be fine to answer that question.
Right.
Yeah. But imagine
I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this, right?
That's exactly right. But now imagine a kid that doesn't have B. And if their parents go, well, how was your day?
Fine.
Did you have fun? Yeah. You get
you did the one word answers. And the parents are like, they never talk to us.
Yes.
Well, you didn't ask them the right way.
That's right. That's exactly right. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, it really, really can just change our relationship dynamics so much, because we stop trying to change people, and because I think that's our inclination in personal relationships, but sometimes even in business relationships, you're go, oh, I don't like this, and I don't even know why, but I don't like the way this communication is going. So I'm going to put in your report that you need to be like this. Or at home, can you just be more like that? Well, no, this person is like that, and it's okay. Nothing wrong with it. They're just different.
Right.
So let's work with each other instead of against each other.
And like you said, you can learn those things. And I think that's the important thing, again, is that people make that effort. Okay. Like I said, I know there are times I need to shut up. And do I always recognize it? No. But I do know, okay, give somebody the chance to do it. But it really is, I mean, I think more, like you said, it's more, it's because I'm thinking, why? Not so much I need to give them a chance, but I want to hear them. I want to hear what they're going to say.
Yeah. And it sounds like, so you're, as a BA, if we're going to kind of go with that for now, it sounds like your pathway to understanding is through letting someone else be heard, or through being heard yourself. And everybody's got their own pathway to whatever their talk type is, so if you're a BA, then you're a relator informer. You want to relate and you want to inform and be informed. That's, what you would do. And somebody else, like an AC would be an informer meaning maker. So they get the facts are their pathway to making meaning. And that kind of gives us, so you can see just how much the why we talk really informs our values and kind of who we are and how we even approach life. I mean, it's just really, really big.
Right. And we were talking before the program about, a lot of stuff that's going on in the world, where it's like, and it gets so frustrating when we aren't getting the information that we want, or when, we were talking about conspiracy theories, and they're all over everywhere. It's not unique to anything. So we're not picking on anybody. But you almost always go, how on earth can they believe that? And I mean, there's still people that think the earth is flat, and you're like, but it's, it doesn't, of course we just want to dismiss them, and that's the worst thing that we can do, because they do want to be heard. They don't need to put up with our eye rolling, all of those various things. But I mean, it's, but I think that is the challenge, especially in, say, a business environment, is when we don't agree, then it just, we just cut it off. And I do remember bosses telling me, just do it because this is what I've said. And there are times where I tend like that. Now, I am also a type A personality, right? You're surprised at that. But, and it's like, I'm right now, I'm managing a big, huge event, it will actually take place over 10 days, all this. I've been doing this for years, but I have different committee members, and they all know that like I said, I'm the first person to raise my hand. And I have finally learned that word, delegate. And I'm actually having a good time with it, right? But I had to be told, you need to delegate, and I need to be reminded on occasion of that. But of course, part of the problem is they've gotten used to the fact that I'm just going to do it, and so, but that the other day there was something that, and I did not agree with how this person was doing it. But my brain kicked in and said, that doesn't mean it's wrong, right? Because that's the thing. And so what I said was, I picked you to be in charge because you're smart and you know what you're doing. Do it. Now, the other little part of me was going, because I wanted to say, no, you should do it this way.
Yeah.
And of course, it will come out just fine.
Yeah.
And different sometimes is better.
Yeah. 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 No, it's true. Sometimes different is better. And I have come to appreciate that so much over the years. And and B is fun. I it's not in my talk type, but I've really come to learn to love it. It is a lot of fun. So yeah, we have to appreciate each other. And that's, I think one of the shortcuts or the best steps we can take to appreciating each other is to learn about each other. And I think that's why this model really helps. We stop taking things personally. We stop trying to change others. Others can stop trying to change us. And then we can just, look and see each other's strengths. Anytime we want to learn something about anything, whether it's baseball or knitting, we first have to develop a vocabulary.
Right.
And that's what this does. It gives us a vocabulary. And with that, we can start to make sense of what we see and what we do and how we interact. And so that vocabulary really does empower us and help us to appreciate each other. And, things that might have felt threatening at one point can now feel endearing.
Right.
And that's huge. Like I said, little things in relationships, in strategies, little changes can make huge outcome differences.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, but how? So let's go back to the very basics.
Yeah.
You've got your group of 10. You're the manager of 10 people. How do you figure out what the 10 people are?
Yeah. So this is a great question. In the book, I have outlined, there's a whole chapter on how to identify talk types. And then there's a chapter on troubleshooting talk types, so that if you're still feeling like you might need a few pointers, you can go there. And I break this down into two ways. So the first way, we want to identify ourselves. It's kind of our starting point.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and with us, we have access. We have access to our inner workings. So then what we do is we think about our preferences, not our practices. Because, I mean, look, you guessed me as a BC because we were doing lots of fun chit chat at the beginning, and so people they can dial up and dial down. So their practices can sometimes be a little bit misleading. Well, okay, when we're dealing with ourselves though, and understanding ourselves, we don't need to look at our practices so much. We can think about our preferences. Okay. How do I think about preferences? I liken it to sitting, walking, running.
Okay.
We have 3 communication categories, and it's like sitting, walking, and running when we try to rank them. So think about being on a long international flight. And all been there. If we had to be on an 8-hour, 12-hour flight, would we rather do it sitting, walking, or running? Well, obviously sitting.
Right.
But even when we're sitting for 8 hours,
you want to get up and walk.
You want to get up and walk. It feels good to go to the lavatory. But God forbid, we would not be 12 hours running,
right,
or even 12 hours walking. So if we think about that, which one? So 2 ways to approach this. Which of these categories would be our sitting? Which would be our walking? Which would be our running? So our walking kind of tends to give relief to our sitting. Our sitting is where we're most comfortable. We're at home in our pajamas. Nobody's there to judge it. This is who we are fundamentally. Brings us the most delight. Okay, great. But even then, when you do, you might be, but even after a while, I need a B break. Let's go, let's do some A. Okay, great. And then after that, all right, I've had enough. Let me go back to my home base. If you had to do C for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, it's like, it would just drain you. And each of us has a different one that drains us, exhausts us. So how do we, which one takes, depletes our energy and which one refuels our energy? So that's how we would look for ourselves. Preferences, not practices. Now, with other people, we don't have access to what's inside their brains.
And they're not always going to be honest. I mean, I remember when I used to when I actually worked in a corporate office, and they would make me take like Myers-Briggs and all of those.
Oh yeah.
I answered them based on what I thought they wanted.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm not going to say, oh no, I'm the employee that wants to leave at noon every Friday. No.
Oh, yeah, I procrastinate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those, I never understood those. I always thought those tests were the stupidest things in the world. And then the people, oh no, I'm honest. No, you're not. No, you're not. Right. And so how do you kind of get the truth of somebody?
Yeah. So this one is a little bit harder, in some ways, but I outline it. It's all in the book. We look for, so I've got this, so we look for these observable kind of traits in people. And what we can observe is people's tone of voice, body language, the words that they use, and the structure of their talk, or how they organize their talk. So now people can, again, they can kind of use different categories than is their home base, but then again, they're going to get tired. So we can look for signs of that. But let's just look real quickly at some of the telltale signs. Okay, so tone of voice. A's are going to come across as matter of fact.
Right.
Just think about it. If I want to give factual information, if I let too much emotion get in the way,
I'm not going to believe it.
You're not going to believe it. So of course I'm going to use a matter of fact tone. And a C is going to use a more heartfelt tone, because they're trying to convey, a deep, vulnerable, sometimes introspective truth. So they're going to use a tone that reflects that. Now, B's they're going to use a personalized tone. So they're going to make it personal to them. And B tone can vary one person to another. Everybody has their own take on it, but it's personalized. And so we're going to get that. So we can look out for tone. Words used. Okay, if we think about words used, this is also interesting because B's use a lot more dialogue. So if we listen to conversation, we're going to say, and then she said, blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, blah, blah, and we are actually kind of recreating.
We're telling the story.
We're telling the story. And we often tell it in chronological order. This gets at the kind of the structure, organization of our talk. B's will tell it more or less, often, not all the time, but a lot of the time. It's in chronological structures or order, so that people can kind of be with you. They can witness the thing that you're saying, just like you did it, from start to finish. And then we're going to give dialogue so that you can. It's like you're there.
And then he said, and then she did,
and then she did. That's exactly right. But A's and C's don't tend to give a lot of dialogue unless there's a specific reason for doing so. They use paraphrase. Yes. And so you're going to hear a lot of paraphrasing going on. And for a B, that's like, oh, you're taking all the fun out and flavor out of it.
Well, we didn't need it. We got our point across.
Exactly. We're trying to convey an understanding. And so all that flavor just gets in the way. Now, if I want to convey an understanding about, I don't know, maybe I had a layover and I got stuck in the snow. It was Chicago and it was Christmas time. And I want to tell you, exactly what happened. I might give some more details. I might even give some dialogue, but it's only going to be key moments that I handpick, So yes, so those are things to listen to as well. Structure, tone of voice,
body language.
Body language, yes. So A's, A body language, it's going to be very, think Bill Gates. Right. That's A. It's just, I'm going to deliver. Again, we're not going to see a lot of emotion in the body.
Right.
It can sometimes be a little bit more robotic or A dominance. B dominants are going to use that. They're going to personalize their body language and use a lot more expression and then
and
C's
literally lean in
yes.
and
Yes. And you might lean in and use your hands. I do that a lot too. But a C lean in is going to be different. A C lean in is like, it's more like that therapy lean in.
Right.
And, and you lean in and hold. Or you're sitting at the table and you're reflecting, and then you pick up the salt shaker and you move it. And you cup the warm coffee in your hands. So our body language reflects our why. So all of these are telltale signs that we can use in other people when we don't have access to kind of what's going on inside.
Right. Well, and I'm also thinking, about, you just need to observe them, in say a business environment, talking to the boss, they're, one way, and then they're very different when they're, say, at the coffee maker. And so then you're realizing, okay, they are a B. They want to tell those stories, but they think that that they shouldn't in front of me. So maybe I should encourage them to tell more, things like that.
Oh yeah. And people, and we want to see when people light up, and people do restrict themselves because they feel that they have to, or maybe somebody grew up in a family where they were the only one of this, this type, and everybody else was like this, and then there was a mismatch.
And so you became what fit in.
That's right. But then when you get older, you become an adult and you're kind of outside of that setting, then you can kind of, see yourself for, I'm actually like this. And that can start to unfold. And I'll add one more thing, that what people like to do with, or one way that we can kind of recognize other people is with humor. This is one area, it's kind of a telltale sign, actually, because the humor that we tend to make is often rooted in our talk type. And even if we're dialing up different, using different humor that we think will land well on our audience, if we listen to when people naturally laugh, spontaneous laughter, just naturally laugh, that will give us a window into, their talk type, because is it an A joke, a B joke, or a C joke? And then we'll have insight.
Yeah. If you have the ha 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 ha, I mean, it's like, no.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, oh my gosh, Amanda, this is just absolutely fascinating. And I think we've just scratched the surface on this. So it would be fun to chat with you again. But we mentioned you are the author of Talk Types, How We Say What Reveals Who We Are. And so we'll have the link to that in the show notes. But tell us, how do people find you? And, when you're not being professor, what are the services that you provide?
Yes. So, you can find the book on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, amandakenderes.com. You can also navigate to that. Talktypes.com is forthcoming, where I'm going to be loading up lots of, because, with the book, you just get words. We don't get access to tone of voice, body language, these kinds of things. And so I'm working right now to build a database of that.
Yeah, I love that, to show the examples. This is what you're talking about.
Yep, that's all coming out. That'll be on talktypes.com. And yes, when I'm not professing, I do personal coaching and professional coaching. So anybody can get a hold of me on amandakenderes.com. There's a little, there's a space to email, and just be in touch and let me know if there's anything that I could do for you or your team.
Very cool. I love it. I love it. Well, like I said, we need to continue this discussion. I'll read the book and then we'll chat about it again. And so that'll be so much fun. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
I think the final thoughts that I would say is that this really is the kind of home base for, you're okay. I know that's a C kind of statement, but I am a C dominant, but you're okay. And everybody in your business, is okay as a communicator. And if we can just accept each other as we are, that's the foundation with which we can approach, okay, what are our strengths? And that's the place we want to be in to get the most, to get the best results from our employees, from our professional and our personal relationships. And that's where we can start. There's so much more after that, but that's definitely the place I think we ought to start.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Well, I am Deb Creer. I've been having so much fun chatting with Dr. Amanda Kenderes. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.